So hello everyone, welcome. We're going to give some of the other participants or attendees a little bit of time to join us. So it is 12 o'clock on the dot. So I guess I should start talking about digital literacy at this stage, but I see people trickling in here. So hello everyone, my name is Richard Shewry, as you can see on the screen, and I'm going to be kind of taking you through some digital literacy kind of information today to just kind of hopefully be able to see where you're at. And if obviously you're not as digitally literate as you would like to be, then obviously hopefully by the end of this session we have together, hopefully you'll have a little bit more of an understanding of what it means to be digitally literate, and hopefully you can kind of take some of this information and use it wisely and productively. So yeah, so currently I've got some 12 attendees so far. Let's see who else. But yeah, okay. I guess we're on time, so it's up to everyone else when they want to come and join us. What I'm going to do, so the format we're going to go through today is I'm going to kind of go through some of what may seem basic to some people. To others, obviously, it might not be as basic as it maybe as it should be. But good day, Claudia. How are you? So yeah, to everyone that maybe has a firm kind of grasp on what it is to be digitally literate, I apologize that we may be going through some of the simpler things to start with. But we will have a Q&A at the end. So if there are things that maybe that I didn't cover in as much detail as you would have liked, please don't feel shy to ask questions. I'm going to go through this in two sections, and then we'll kind of hopefully we'll have a little break after the first section, not a break, but just more of a Q&A that we can discuss things for a moment, and then we'll kind of go into the more detailed section towards the end. There's not going to be any homework or assignments or anything for this. This is just a general overview, kind of a high level kind of look at digital literacy in 2023. You know, so this topic, this subject, I guess, has evolved quite a lot over the years, and obviously more and more so over the recent years, and I guess even more so with COVID and all the other kind of global issues that we've currently been having. And I think obviously it makes sense to kind of evolve what that digital literacy definition has traditionally meant, and kind of making it a bit more meaty in a way. So rather than just being, okay, I know how to use Word and I know how to use Excel and I can kind of drop you an email, that's not really going to cut it in this day and age of digital literacy, especially with this kind of AI revolution that we're kind of going through right now. The fourth industrial revolution obviously kind of put a spring in everyone's step, and obviously made people realize that there's a lot of automation and robotics and kind of these other tools and technologies that are coming into play that are kind of doing a lot of the kind of more mundane, menial tasks for us. If we kind of know how to use these tools, we can be a lot more productive and we can get a lot more done in the time that we have. You know, we've got 1,440 minutes every day. And how do we use those minutes as effectively and efficiently as we can? And I think that's, in this day and age, what companies are looking for, what obviously the world needs, is how do you get things done as quickly as possible? And obviously it's still at a high quality, and still with that passion and love that you would put into something. But how do we use some of these modern tools and technologies to be able to kind of to make ourselves into kind of essentially superheroes, you know, because that's what it comes down to. If you know how to use a lot of these tools effectively, you're going to outshine a lot of people in the workplace, in the corporate space, in the kind of the entrepreneurial space. You're going to come across as a lot more efficient, and you're going to be able to do a lot more. And in turn, you're going to be kind of offered a lot more opportunities will be presented to you if your digital literacy is kind of up to speed and kind of impressive. So it is quite an important topic, and it's one of those things, like I said at the beginning, for anyone that joined in a little bit later, it has changed a lot. So those kind of ideas of just being like, I know how to use Excel and Word, therefore I'm digitally literate. It's good to have those skills, but that's not what's making people digitally literate these days. Okay, so with that little introduction aside, I'm going to now share my screen with you so you can see a little presentation / short course I've put together. I'm going to share this with you guys at the end. So I'll put it into the chat, and you guys can obviously download it and use it. Go through it. There's a bunch of videos and other links within the presentation. So I would suggest you kind of go through that in your own time. Again, like I said, there's no homework, so no one's going to kind of check up on you if you've gone through this, but it definitely will help you in your own kind of endeavors and challenges that you go through in the world of work and life. So hopefully everyone can see my screen, and I'm going to try and move that a little bit out of the way so I can see what I'm covering here. Okay. So yeah, I'm not going to kind of go through and read out every single kind of page to you, but I'm just going to kind of go through a little overview of all of the different topics that digital literacy kind of covers. So obviously, like I said, I developed this as a short little course, so you guys can kind of go through it in your own pace, go through some of the exercises, go through some of the online tutorials that I've provided with the course. And again, hopefully you use this to become a more powerful you. So like I said, obviously the world's changing quite rapidly, and obviously this line of digital and reality is kind of getting quite blurred. We're moving into some interesting kind of spaces when it comes to augmented reality, virtual reality, remote working, the AI world that's kind of been unleashed on us since late last year, November. Excuse me, with the likes of GPT and other tools as such. And obviously, we need to be able to be ready for that, because if we're not ready for that, there's going to be a lot of other people around the world that are ready for it and that are geared up for it. And they're going to be kind of making full use of all of these tools and technologies because they understand the value and importance of it. Sorry, I've got a bit of a runny nose, so if I sniff and sound a bit nasal, I do apologize. But we'll get through this, don't worry. So like I said, obviously it creates opportunities for you. The more you know about this, the more you're familiar, the more comfortable you are in this kind of digital space, the more opportunities you're going to see that other people aren't going to see, because you're going to know where to start when it comes to kind of actually taking an idea and turning it into something, or dealing with a challenge or a problem and kind of resolving it using some of these tools and technologies. So you're going to look like I said, a superhero of sorts if you do know how to use a lot of these tools. So yeah, like I said earlier, being digitally literate isn't just about knowing how to send an email or use a word processor. It's about understanding and harnessing the powers of technology that are out there at the moment to solve problems, to innovate, to create value, to kind of to chase your dreams in a lot of ways, So making use of these tools and technologies that I'm going to mention here will obviously kind of put you ahead of a large portion of the population in South Africa, and I mean a large portion. I say this from obviously experience of dealing with a lot of students and people from all walks of life, and it's often quite surprising and often a little bit sad that people aren't more inept and aren't more kind of plugged into obviously the opportunities that are out there by having these skills. So again, having these skills just puts you in a higher position, puts you in a much more a position of power to be able to call shots and to be able to kind of do things that other people would seem to look at as impossible or outside of their kind of expertise and realm of comfort, should I say. Yeah. So some things obviously that we often kind of overlook is a lot of these new technologies and companies that are out there are literally like just harnessing some of these technologies, some of these tools, and creating really impressive services and companies, and obviously doing so in a way where the risk is low, the investment's relatively low, and it's all about understanding how to connect the dots, essentially. So there's a lot of dots out there in the world, and the more you understand about the fourth industrial revolution, the more you understand about some of these technologies, the more dots you're going to see that are going to be able to connect together. And again, that's seeing things that other people aren't going to see. So don't take for granted what you know and the information that you have, because not everyone has that information, and people with information are able to see things and take advantage of things that other people aren't able to see. So there's obviously a ton of tools and platforms that we're going to focus on in this short little course, or short little overview that we're going to go through. I'm going to touch on Microsoft Office because obviously it is still a very vital tool. Microsoft Office, in the suite of tools there, it's going to be mainly Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. Word to obviously do your word processing, Excel to do your spreadsheets, and your PowerPoint to present your wonderful business ideas or proposals or presentations. So those three tools are also found inside the Google suite of tools. So Google's got obviously Google Sheets, which is the equivalent of Excel, and you've got Google Docs, which is obviously the equivalent of Microsoft Office, Microsoft Word, and then you've also got obviously your PowerPoint or Sheets, as it's called, slides, shall I say, as it is in Google. So you've got a bunch of different tools. So if you don't want to go and pay for a license for Microsoft Office, then you are able to use a lot of these similar tools. And again, similar shortcuts, similar kind of interfaces, except they're all free through your Google account. So you obviously, I'm almost certain that everyone has a Google account at this stage in their life. If you don't, please get one. And you'll have access to a lot of tools that Google gives you for free. So you can use them, and you can use them wherever you are in the world. You can use them on your own personal computer. You can kind of just log into your Google on your phone, and you can use them through your phone. So there's no real excuse for not having access to some of these tools these days, because a lot of these are all available for free. Obviously, there's also other tools that, again, I'm not going to probably be able to get through going through lessons and stuff with you today, but some of the tools that we're using in our labs, and we've got these academic makerspace labs at the region campuses, referred to as the iLead Lab. And these iLead labs obviously teach a lot of fourth industrial revolution related topics. So from 3D printing, laser cutting, CNCing, vacuum forming, and coding, robotics, AI, to kind of sublimation, through to kind of I think I mentioned virtual reality, augmented reality. There's a ton of different industry, drones, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of stuff that we cover that all kind of falls under the fourth industrial revolution umbrella. And some of the tools that we use in there, some of the more common tools that we use in there are some of the design tools, are Inkscape, which is free. And anyone can go and download Inkscape for free. And we use that to do like graphic design. We use that for website design. We use that for t-shirt designs. We use it for laser cutting. It's a very, very versatile tool. And I'd suggest, if anyone hasn't used it before, and anyone that wants to be able to design things, and anyone that does presentations or anything related to graphics and design, I would suggest you download Inkscape. Like I said, it's free from inkscape.org. So inkscape.org. And then there's SketchUp. SketchUp is a nice 3D modeling tool that can also be used for laser cutting, for 2D design. But it's also a free tool. The SketchUp Make is the free version. You can also use it online by going to app.sketchup.com, and you've got a whole kind of 3D environment that you can use through your web browser. So you don't actually have to install any software if you don't want to, just to start fiddling with it. And as it points out here in the little presentation, they're not just software, they're gateways to endless possibilities. And when you start to kind of do a little bit of research into these just two tools that I've just mentioned here, SketchUp and Inkscape, you'll see how that last sentence makes sense. And I can speak from personal experience when it comes to obviously both of these tools, when it comes to kind of presenting ideas, pitching products, pitching kind of technologies and kind of spaces and designing spaces, et cetera, et cetera. It's a very, very useful skill to have, to be able to use some of these softwares that I'm mentioning. So SketchUp Make is the version that is free, or app.sketchup.com, and you'll be able to obviously do it through your web browser. Okay, so why is this course crucial to you, especially as students in South Africa? Well, obviously South Africa, it's to put it nicely, we're lagging behind a lot of things in the world, and obviously by us lagging behind, we're missing out on a lot of opportunities. We're missing out on vital opportunities at vital times in history. So right now, there's like I say, a whole AI revolution that's kind of happening at the moment. And unless we're aware of this, unless we're kind of digitally literate, we're not going to be able to make use of these kind of opportunities that are going to be presented. So this AI revolution that we're going through is very similar. I liken it to the .com kind of boom, you know, when back in the day, when all of a sudden we had the internet, and then everyone had a website, and then everyone had some website that was worth millions and millions of dollars or rands or whatever the case is. The first mover advantage is always nice to have, because you're kind of leading the way. So to be able to have this kind of skill of making use of a lot of these technologies and being able to kind of do things in an efficient and effective way is going to put us up in the levels of the rest of the developed world. And we need to get there. You know, we've got a massive unemployment issue in the country, I mean, amongst other issues, but these are all just challenges that need to be addressed and that there are solutions to. So if we kind of have these skills, we can start to present opportunities. We can start to present solutions to some of the challenges we've got in South Africa. We can start to kind of investigate and research and kind of come up with ways of solving some of our kind of our challenges and I hate saying the word problems, but some of the problems we have in South Africa. So it's not just about creating jobs, or it's not just about you finding a job and then using these skills in your own job. It's about obviously kind of allowing people to create more jobs. And obviously we need more job makers. We need more entrepreneurs. We need more employers. At this point, we've got a lot of people looking for employment, but we haven't got all that many people that are obviously offering employment. So we need to obviously be able to create people that are able to go out there and create employment. So this, again, throughout this time we have together today, hopefully by the end of it, you'll see a few opportunities. Hopefully you'll see the light at the end of the proverbial tunnel, as they say, and you'll be able to obviously make use of some of these things, either to empower yourself in your current workspace, or for job hunting, or for hopefully at some point for you to go and create a business and or create an idea or pitch an idea. And using these skills, you'll hopefully be able to kind of get it across effectively and clearly. Okay, so next page. So every obviously big tech giant, every revolutionary app, every transformative technology is started with someone who wants to bring an idea, digital skill, and bring it to life. It started with an idea, and obviously with their digital skills, they brought it to life. So someone could be you, hopefully it's you. That's the whole point of obviously what we do. So as you kind of go into this new era of digital worlds and kind of virtual worlds and this artificial intelligent world, hopefully you're able to kind of decipher and kind of see the wood from the trees, because sometimes this is quite overwhelming for a lot of people that obviously haven't been involved in this space. There's just so much, every day you kind of turn on the news, or every time you kind of go and browse through the internet, you'll find a bunch of new technologies and new this and new that. It can be a little bit overwhelming. I understand that. So don't let that kind of startle you. Don't let it kind of get to you. This is natural. Everyone goes through these moments of, where do I even begin? But hopefully by the end of this, like I say, you'll kind of at least know what the foundation skills you'll need are, and then how to build from that foundation. Okay. So as I said at the bottom here, the future is digital and it's waiting for you. So let's begin our journey. Okay. So we've got to start at the beginning, obviously, because digital literacy often involves computers. Okay, and I want to assume that obviously everyone is familiar with computers, but I often am, like I said at the beginning, often sadly let down. And again, it's not maybe from the fault of the individual. Maybe they just haven't had access to computers and to these kind of technologies that some of us have access to. So for anyone that's obviously watching this webinar with us today, I'm assuming you must have some kind of technology in front of you, otherwise we wouldn't be here. So hopefully, with all the kind of the tools and technologies you've got, you become a little bit more familiar of what computers are and what the foundations of computers are. But I'm going to do a quick little refresher, just so that obviously everyone is more familiar. Again, I might ask you one or two questions at our first little break, and hopefully you guys will have some questions too, so you'll be able to kind of test your knowledge on this topic. Okay, and test my knowledge as well if you want to. So if you want to kind of ask me any tricky questions about anything, please feel free to. I'm always up for a challenge. Okay, so introduction to computers. So, what is a computer? Well, it's a number of things. It's to a large extent, it's a bunch of bits and bytes. It's a bunch of zeros and ones. But those zeros and ones actually kind of turn into something quite magical once they kind of laid out in the right way. And obviously we don't have to worry too much about that binary code, that 0 and 1. That's obviously everyone says computer, it's zeros and ones. That's what everything about computing is. It is about zeros and ones, but it's obviously not something that we need to kind of worry ourselves too much with. But it's a nice thing to understand, and how obviously every single program, every single computer, everything works on that same principle. So it's nice to just understand the kind of the core level of computing. Okay. So, like I was saying earlier, you could be superheroes. So everyone's obviously at some point, I'm sure, wished for a superpower, whether it's invisibility or the ability to fly or the ability to shoot webs from your hands. I don't know what you guys are into. But with computers, you can obviously have a different type of superpower. And obviously your superpowers are going to be limited to the amount of time and effort you want to put into developing those superpowers. So I'm not going to make any bad Marvel comic or kind of DC comic related kind of references here because I don't know enough about those topics. So I'm just going to kind of go through the computing side of things, which is something that I am quite comfortable with. Okay, so as you can see at the bottom here, I have a little video. I would like to actually share that with you guys. So I'm going to just quickly get my video to open here. Okay, oopsie. Clickety click. And I'm going to share this link with you in your chat. So if I go to my chats there, boom, and I'm going to just pop that in there. It's just a little YouTube video. I'm gonna give you 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes, or whatever the case is. I wouldn't mind if you just watch this quickly, okay? Because again, it covers like a lot of the basics of what a computer is and some of the other foundational stuff quite nicely and graphically and really relatively easy to follow. So before we obviously dive deep and I'm losing people, I wouldn't mind if you guys just watch that video for again 2.5 minutes. So what the time is right now, excuse me, my nose is running here. I'm gonna go get myself a tissue at the same time. I'm gonna give you guys 5 minutes. So it's currently 22 minutes past. It's just gone 22 minutes past. So we'll meet back here in the same place in, I'd say, let's give it 4 minutes. 4 minutes, we can get this done. And I can go and quickly blow my nose. So yeah, just watch that video and we'll move through after that, if you don't mind. I'm gonna go blow my nose quickly. We'll be back. Paste it again for anyone that missed it. Okay, so I'm hoping. So I see a few people here were saying they didn't get the link. I did posted it twice, and I've got the guys from our support team also who posted it. So I'm hoping. I mean, you can tell me in the chat if you want to, if you've finished watching. Yeah, okay, I've got some Q&A there. Okay, so I've got Tembi asking me. Okay, so you have. I don't know if you've seen the link yet. I don't see the link. I'll just quickly share it with you personally here. There we go. Send. And just checking how long the class is going to be. We're going to be probably wrapping up. It was set for about an hour to an hour and a half. So obviously, the last 15 minutes was going to be Q&A. So we'll power through the rest of it relatively quickly. I'm going to show one or two demos at the end, and then we'll do some Q&A. Okay. So that's for Tembi, who's asking. Okay. Close that again. Oh. Okay, so let's get back to this. Okay, so hopefully that gave you enough time to kind of watch that video and just kind of get a bit more of a basic understanding of what a computer is. So I'm going to move on from here. There are a bunch of videos. I'm not going to kind of make you watch all of them because obviously we don't have enough time. This is more set for a kind of a slightly longer full course. So I'm just going to go through the basics of this. Hopefully by that little video, you were able to differentiate the difference between a desktop, a laptop, a tablet, a smartphone, a fridge, etc., etc. They all have computers of sorts in them. Obviously, when we say servers, etc., so obviously we mentioned servers in the video. So obviously we kind of going to be primarily kind of working ourselves on our smartphones and our laptops and our desktops and our tablets. So I won't go too deep into servers and fridges and all the other kind of types of computers that are out there. But again, I'm always happy to answer questions on any topic around this kind of stuff. So if you at the end want to ask questions, please feel free. Now, obviously, when it comes to the kind of understanding what a computer is and what's the kind of the components that make up a computer and what makes one computer better than the other computer, obviously it's understanding those components. So sometimes when you are looking for a computer that you want to kind of do a specific task with, so if you're going to get into graphic design, it's probably not going to be the same computer that you're going to use if you're an accountant. So obviously the graphic design computer would probably need more of a more GPU, so more of a graphics kind of card. So obviously the CPU is our general kind of processor, our central processor. And obviously your GPU is your graphics processor. Your graphics processors are a lot more powerful because obviously they do heavier lifting with graphics, etc. And they're very specific to that task, whereas the CPU is a very broad processor. It's not specialized in any particular task. It's able to do all of the tasks, but not necessarily the best at individual tasks within all of those tasks. And that's where other components will become more useful for specific tasks. Like I said, graphic design, obviously your graphics card is going to be important. So that graphics card handles a lot of the heavy lifting on graphics. Those are your internal hardware components, and your peripherals are going to be your kind of your mouse, your keypad, your keyboards, your printers, your speakers, your monitors. Those are all things that plug into your kind of internal hardware in some way or another. So yeah, again, I'm not going to make you watch that video, so I'm going to go to the next slide here. Understanding your hardware is obviously important. It's going to kind of make you make better decisions when it comes to obviously using certain machines and requesting certain machines when you're kind of looking to buy your own computers. Having a nice computer with a nice, I will recommend one thing just on the kind of choosing a computer. You can't go wrong with more RAM. So again, always have as much RAM as you can kind of afford, or as much RAM as your computer can handle. If you're using a laptop, it'll make a massive difference from your ability to work efficiently and quickly, essentially. So yeah, obviously important to have a nice amount of RAM in your laptop. And then I would stay away from your lower end processors like your Celerons. If you don't want to have a too much of a headache in the future, I would stay away from Celerons for anyone that has a Celeron. You'll understand for obvious reasons. If you've used an i3, an i5, an i7, an i9, if you've used any of these these processes and you've used Acceleron, you'll understand the difference between why you don't want to use Acceleron if you can avoid it. So if that's what you've got, that's what you've got. But obviously, like I say, you can make that computer perform a little bit better by increasing the RAM. And also, if you're not running a solid state drive, an SSD drive, NVMe drive, then you'll obviously be able to kind of upgrade your hard drive to be an SSD, and that'll also increase your speed if you are working on a computer that is a Celeron or is a slower or older computer. You want your computer to work nicely, so you want to be excited to turn your laptop on or your computer on every day, rather than, oh, it's taking 5 minutes to start up, and then every time I click on an icon to open up an app, it's taking 5 minutes to open the app. You're never going to love spending time on your computer if your computer is slow. So I would recommend, obviously, just trying to make your computer run as efficiently and as effectively as possible. I don't recommend installing unnecessary tools that start up with your computer. And the tools that start up with your computer, you'll often find them in the bottom right-hand side of your computer in the taskbar. That'll tell you that every time you start your computer, it's starting up, maybe it's starting up Microsoft OneDrive, maybe it's starting up Skype for some reason, maybe it's starting up it will definitely probably start up your antivirus if you've got an antivirus installed. Don't install like 3 different antiviruses. Antiviruses actually do use quite a lot of resources on your computer. When I say resources, I mean RAM and processing power. Especially with some of the older, less powerful computers, your choice of antivirus is quite important. I'm a bit of a fan of Kaspersky. It's very light. There's a free version that you don't have to pay anything for, and obviously it's again, it's a very light on resources on your computer. So it's one of the better ones to use. Don't install like 30 different antivirus tools. And if you see those little pop-ups when you're browsing the internet telling you you've got 3,000 viruses on your computer, download this program to solve that, don't click those links, please. That's a scam. So yeah, so there's, again, don't be fooled by pop-ups on the internet, is my point. Kaspersky, Kaspersky, is one of the better ones to use. It's light, it's free, and it's kind of runs in the corner without much kind of processing and RAM being used. Okay, so again, I've mentioned some hard drives, some storage devices that we're familiar with. And obviously, your USB flash drives. You've got your memory cards that people will use, and your micro SDs will go into some of your phones, into your cameras, etc., etc. Your hard drives, your normal HDDs, your normal kind of spinning kind of hard drives, the spinning disks. Then there's obviously also, no one's really using CDs and DVDs and Blu-rays these days, and no one's certainly using any floppy disks anymore. Those were a time that I'm happy that time is over. That thing could only hold like a meg and one point something meg, 1.4 meg, I think it was back in the day. And then your external hard disks, and again, that can be an HDD, it can be an SSD. There's a variety of different things that will fit into your external hard disk. You'll also get your non-powered ones, your smaller laptop-sized hard drives, external hard drives, and then you'll get the bigger ones that'll take a full-size desktop computer's hard drive. Those will often require power to run them. So the smaller little kind of ones that we're probably all familiar with, that we kind of plug into the USB port without any need for power, those won't be as fast won't often be as fast if they're just normal HDDs as your bigger drives, but they do serve the purpose. Okay. And again, you can see I've got links on all these pages. So again, when you get this document at the end, feel free to go deeper and dive deeper into the different topics yourself. An operating system is important. We all need one. If we didn't have one, we wouldn't be able to install any of the software that we need to use. And there's obviously a lot of operating systems out there. They kind of come in a variety of forms. Obviously, Windows is one operating system that obviously everyone is probably familiar with. Well, hopefully everyone is familiar with. For anyone that's a Mac user out there, you'll be using Mac OS. That's obviously a different type of operating system based on Linux. Linux itself is also an operating system, and that comes in a variety of different flavors. When I mean flavors, I mean like different distributions, and you'll get things from Ubuntu to Mint to Kali to kind of there's literally thousands. Diet Pi is one of the operating systems I use on the Raspberry Pi, which is another kind of interesting little circuit board. There's tons and tons of operating systems under the Linux kind of umbrella. Linux is obviously also what your operating system on your phones are mostly based on. So if anyone's running an iPhone and they'll be using iOS, the iOS is actually a version of, it's called Darwin. It's a Linux distribution called Darwin. So that's what's running in the back end. And then the front end, the graphical user interface, has obviously been designed by Apple to make it look all pretty, but it's really Linux in the background. The same with Android. Android is also Linux. It's just got a nice graphical user interface in front of it. That's obviously it makes it not look like a scary Linux machine. Okay, so operating systems, again, you need them. You can't live without them. They're everywhere, and you sometimes don't even notice them. Okay. So, and again, all operating systems all have their kind of pros and cons, and they're not all compatible. The file systems, the file formats, the applications. You can't use an Apple application on a Windows machine. It's not going to work, and vice versa. It's not going to. Well, there are ways, but I'm not going to get into all the hackery and the workarounds of making certain applications run on operating systems they're not meant to. Okay, so I mentioned you can't have software without an operating system. So obviously, what is software? Software, obviously, as you might be familiar already, are all the tools and the things that I mentioned. So from Office through to Inkscape and SketchUp, and those are all pieces of software. People will kind of on your phones, you refer to them as apps, but much of they're software really. And the software is obviously going to allow you, it's been coded very nicely to allow you to do a specific task. So like I mentioned, Inkscape for graphic design, that particular the software is being programmed to do that task. There's no one piece of software that does everything perfectly. So it kind of, I hope I don't kill anyone's dreams there. But anyway, the reality is there's like a lot of tools that you'll jump between to get the most out of your work. So for example, if you're doing a presentation using PowerPoint or if you're using Google Slides, you'll most likely want to be able to use a graphics software to maybe do your banners and to do your kind of other graphics and things that might be kind of in your presentation. So you're not going to do all of that and rely on PowerPoint or slides to do all your graphic design, because that's not really what it is. It's really just there to lay out presentations. So if you want your graphics to look really good, you'd prepare them in a piece of software like an Inkscape or Illustrator for anyone that's familiar with any of the Adobe products. And you would then obviously be able to kind of make it personal and custom for whatever presentation you're trying to put together. You're not limited to some picture you found on the internet, but you want to crop out just a section of the picture. You might be able to do that in PowerPoint, but it's not as kind of clean and easy and straightforward as it would be with some of the tools that are designed for that particular task. So you can see that some of the software tools that I've mentioned here are mostly some of the tools and things that we use in our labs. So again, from web browsers, everyone hopefully is familiar with what a web browser is. For anyone that's not, the most famous browser used to be called Internet Explorer. It no longer exists. It's now Edge, Microsoft Edge, which will come with all of your Windows machines. And on top of that, there's other browsers like Firefox, and there's a Chrome. Obviously, it's quite a popular one. It's not my favorite, but it is pretty decent. It's got a lot of plugins, a lot of tools that connect with a lot of the Google services, because Chrome is made by Google. There's Brave, there's Vivaldi, there's thousands, or not so thousands, there's at least hundreds of web browsers out there. Some better than others. Some use less resources on your computer. And I prefer, my personal preference, and again, it's up to anyone, they can use whatever they want to do. I use two browsers mainly for my main work, but I've got about 7 or 8 installed on my computer for other testing purposes, etc. When doing web development, it's nice to have extra browsers to see how your website looks on the different browsers, because they don't all look the same in every browser. So you want to test that. So web browsers to obviously your PowerPoint and your Excel and your Word and your Inkscape and SketchUp. RDWorks is obviously the stuff that we use in the labs here to do laser cutting. So we make things with laser cutters for anyone that's a laser cut products over there. So cutting things, we use RDWorks. Arduino IDE is obviously what we use to code our electronics. I don't have any electronics on my table right now, but yeah, so for coding and making robotics and kind of electronic products, you'll use an Arduino IDE to write all your code that then talks to your hardware, talks to your electronics. So that's one of the other tools that we're using here. But those are all just examples of software. Okay. So when it comes to file management, that's also quite important. So obviously understanding how to store your files correctly and organize your files and keep them at the right size, and understanding what formats do what and what you can do with certain formats is quite important. You don't want to get stuck while you're standing maybe next to a client, or you're standing in front of your boss, and he's sent you a zip file or a raw file or some other kind of compressed file, and you're looking at this thing going, I don't know what to do with this. I'm trying to open it up in Word, and the zip file's not opening up in Word. So you need to kind of understand what different file formats are, and obviously what they do and what applications they're associated with. So for example, like I've used the example of a docx file here. So that obviously is a file that is native to Microsoft Word. So if you just double click on that, it'll open up in Word. But if you, for example, are using Inkscape and you go and try file open and go and try and open a docx file in Inkscape, it's not going to work because the program, that software, is not made for that type of file format. So there's tons of different file formats. We might be familiar with things like JPEGs or bitmaps or GIFs or GIFs, however you want to pronounce it. There's PNGs. These are all graphic kind of file formats. If you're not familiar with, like, I'm sure everyone's watched a movie or two on their computer, so they might be familiar with file extensions like AVIs or MP4s. Or kind of MKV files these days, which are normally your high definition video files. So you'll need an application to open those formats. So if you get a file where someone sent it to you and you double click on it and it says, what would you like me to open this with? That most likely means that you haven't got a piece of software installed on your computer that can open that type of file. So all you would need to do is just go and type in that file extension, obviously docx as this example. If I just typed in what software opens docx on Google, it'll tell me, hey, you need Microsoft Office, which inside Microsoft Office, you're going to have Word, and Word is going to open up your docx file. So don't get stuck. Don't kind of put your hand up and go and ask someone, I can't open this file. Just go and do a quick little Google search on how to, obviously, on what type of file that is and what program it needs to open, and you'll be able to solve the problem by yourself. So showing that you're kind of digitally literate, essentially. Organizing files, like I say, it's nice to keep your files nicely managed. Nothing worse than kind of looking at a desktop with 300 apps, 300 icons on it, and 300 shortcuts on it. It's not an efficient way to work. I know sometimes all of us will probably have to save that to the documents or save that to downloads, and we'll get back to that at a later stage. Don't let that run away from you. Don't make file names that are file123.doc or docx or new file 112 or 121. None of those things make sense to you. So in the future, you're going to be looking through your computer, trying to find that document you were working on or that file you were working on. And because you were lazy in naming your files and storing them in kind of appropriate folders, you're going to spend 10 minutes of your day looking for a file that you didn't have to waste 10 minutes of your day looking for. And that 10 minutes of each day will add up, so over a week, that's an hour. Over a month, that's 4 hours. Obviously over a year, that's already 2 days that you've wasted looking for files that you could have just named properly, and not wasted those 2 days of the year looking for files that are badly named. File compression, like I mentioned zip earlier, just makes your files a bit smaller, so you're able to kind of send things quicker. It's also not using as much data or using as much bandwidth to send some of those files. So that's also an interesting kind of, that's zips and raw and 7-zip and XY files. That's more of a Linux file. gzip files. These are all compression files. So your actual document, for example, will be zipped up into this file format that you've got to then unzip or extract, and then you'll have your file inside that. So a lot of files you'll find on the internet are sent in that way. And then you just extract them and get the information from them on the inside. Again, there's videos there. You guys are welcome to go and have a look at in your own time. So what's the internet? The internet, a whole bunch of computers that are connected together, essentially one big network. And that network is obviously sharing, and that's where the servers come in. There'll be a web server that hosts websites, and those websites will obviously be websites that we're able to visit because they're connected to the internet 24 hours a day throughout the year. The shop doesn't close. For example, that internet website doesn't kind of close from 5 o'clock until 7 o'clock the next morning. It's available 24 hours a day because all that information, that whole website is sitting on a server somewhere. That server is connected to the internet 24 hours a day. So that's how we're able to access the internet. And obviously, I'm not going to go too deep into TCP/IP or transmission control protocols or internet protocols as it is, because again, that's a little bit higher level that we need to go through. But again, there's a little video that you can kind of go browse at your own kind of your own time. So again, searching using the right browsers, like I mentioned, and obviously being able to search effectively is obviously quite a useful skill. There's obviously formats of kind of how to search effectively, what kind of words to use, what order you put those words in, whether or not they're in inverted commas or not. There's a bunch of different techniques that you can do, that you can use for searching things, obviously when you're using a web browser. And then obviously we can, I'm sure, go through tons and tons of the applications and the tools and things within, for example, Gmail. But again, there's a little video you can go through in your own time to go and see what Google is fully capable of. What Gmail is fully capable of. And it's obviously, it's a ever-evolving tool. It's got a lot of AI built into it these days, so it kind of makes your sorting and kind of spam and everything kind of a little bit easier to manage. So that's a little bit about understanding how to use your Gmail. Internet security is vital. Internet security is very, very important. Like I mentioned earlier, you know, you've got this antivirus thing on your computer that obviously, hopefully, you've got. You will have one by default with Windows, but I tend to, like I say, personally, I use Kaspersky. But it kind of keeps me safe from certain like phishing attacks and things that happen on the internet. Not phishing as in phishing for fish. It's phishing in the same sense that obviously it's people will kind of send you an email to kind of see if you click. They're trying to get you to click on a link in your email, basically, and they'll be kind of doing it in a way where they're like, "Hey, I've noticed you've been searching this," or if there's a phishing attack, and then there's also, I think, called a spear phishing attack. A spear phishing attack is a very targeted attack. So if they know something about you personally, then they'll be able to say, "Hey, Kim, or whatever your name is, I noticed that your friend on." Your friend told me to contact you about this particular product. So maybe they've just, because your Facebook or because you've been a little bit loose with your information, they're able to see who your associates are and maybe put your company information so they know that you work with this particular person. A spear phishing attack will be an attack where they kind of actually not just throwing out a net like a normal phishing attack and hoping that someone kind of swims into that net. A spear phishing attack is a very targeted attack to kind of go, I want this particular person to click on this link so that I can get access to their computer or access to their files or whatever the case is. So just be aware when you are browsing the internet, not to just click on random links. Also, when you do online purchasing and stuff, just make sure that at the top of the page on your browser, there'll be a little lock icon. That little lock icon, it basically signifies that it's got an SSL certificate. So it's a secure socket layer, essentially. That's what SSL stands for. So it'll have a secure socket layer, and that secure socket layer is actually making sure that that's a legitimate kind of, it has to have a license. You have to apply for that license through a legitimate company. And then if that's got that little lock on, you can kind of mostly feel safe that it's a good enough website to shop on. That'll just be its digital kind of certificate of security. Strong passwords, obviously very, very important these days. Please don't use password. Please don't use password as your password. And please don't tell people your passwords. So people will say, get those emails from your bank saying, "Oh, we need to change some system and you need to log into your bank account quickly and just put your username and password." Don't do that unless you confirm that it is from the bank, okay? Because often the bank won't do that. They won't send you out an email telling you to change your password. So don't fall for those kind of things. And again, don't share your password with anyone. Friends, I mean, maybe family, I don't know. I don't know your families well enough to know if you can trust them to go and snoop through your emails. But just, don't try and keep your password strong, and try and keep it obviously something that is, again, a mix of numbers, letters, symbols, and something that you're not going to forget. So obviously, I've noticed this is a massive problem here in South Africa, where a lot of people forget their passwords more often than not. And so just something that is in your mind. And often people will do like variations of that password in different orders and maybe different letters and capitals and different numbers instead of letters. And so just don't have one password for everything either. That's also just an important thing to say, because as soon as one password is cracked, then all of a sudden all of your passwords are cracked, and you don't want that to be the case. So again, use your passwords. Choose your passwords wisely and smartly, and don't use them all don't use all of them. Don't go and write them down and put them in your wallet or put them behind on your cell phone cover and go, "That's how, if I need them, I've got them." Just keep them in your head. You've got a brain. Your brain will be able to remember your password or your passwords variations. Okay. Online storage, there's obviously a ton of online storage out there at the moment. And obviously there's from Google Drive through to Dropbox through to one that I was using for quite a while. slipping my mind right now. But anyway, there's a lot of online storage. There's OneDrive. There's a number of online storage facilities that you can go and store your files. And if you've got an Apple phone, you'll have obviously your Apple Cloud, that you can store your documents, that you can access them whenever you want to. Obviously, the Google Drive's got enough space to store most of the things that you're going to need to access on a daily basis. The last thing you want to do is lose your phone or lose your computer and not have your stuff backed up, because that's all your hard work that's going to be gone. And also, if your hard drive fails, for example, maybe your hard drive crashes, or somehow you're busy having your coffee and you spill coffee all over your computer, and then all of a sudden your hard drive is fried, then you've lost all that work. So make sure you've got your stuff backed up. You can back it up onto externals, but I'd also recommend backing up the important stuff onto like your Google Drive. So at least you've got that. You can zip that, and you could even, if you wanted to, you could encrypt that if you really wanted to. There's a bunch of free encryption tools. One very famous one called PGP, pretty good protection is what PGP stands for. It's a free and open source tool, so you can use it whenever you want to. I see, Claudia, I think your hand went up there. So let me just see what we've got. I've got any questions here at the moment? Okay. I think I saw Claudia's hand go up, but if you have a question, Claudia, please feel free to ask. I'm almost at the end of the first section, so we'll be able to kind of answer a few questions shortly. Okay. Minimize that. Boom. Okay. So back up your stuff. That's the moral of this particular slide. Okay. Again, tons of Windows shortcuts. Windows shortcuts work on most programs. So if you're using Word, if you're using Excel, if you're just using your actual operating system, if you're using Inkscape, if you're using SketchUp, if you're using a lot of the Windows tools, a lot of these things, Control-C will always be Control-C will always be copy, Control-V will always be paste, Control-X will always be cut, etc. No problem, Claudia. Okay, so some of these are very handy. The more efficient you become with shortcuts, the quicker you can get things done. Often I'll go through days without even touching my mouse or my trackpad. It's just kind of keyboard shortcuts. So it's just a lot easier to operate. One of my favorite ones is obviously that I use very often is my Alt tab. So that's kind of down the page on the left-hand side. The Alt tab will just switch between your application. So you'll hold Alt and you'll tap tab, and it'll kind of bounce between all the programs you've got open in front of you. So it's a useful one to kind of skip through things. Instead of having to take your mouse, go to the bottom, click on this, minimize this. You can do all of that using, for example, Alt tab. But yeah, go through those shortcuts, and there's many, many more, obviously, but these are just some of the more common ones. Okay, next one. Oopsie. Well done. Hey, well done. We've completed the foundations of computing. Okay, so I said we were going to do some Q&A, but obviously I wouldn't mind just kind of, if you have got any questions, please feel free to fire them at me. I'm ready. But if not, I'm going to move on to the next section, and then I'm going to do a little bit of a demo at the end, and then we'll do a full-on Q&A right at the end if you want to. So for anyone that has any questions, feel free to pop them into the chat there, and I'll answer them as we go through the next section. But with that said, I'm going to move on to the next section. Okay, so again, this was done as part of obviously kind of a exercise. So you were obviously going to be going through all of these tasks of kind of creating a Google Doc or a Microsoft Word doc, and how to basically do one or two things in there, inserting images, etc. But we're not going to have time for everyone to do that, and I'm not going to kind of give you any official tasks to do while we have this chat here. So you can again go through these tasks in your own time and get back to us if you get stuck with anything. It is relatively straightforward. I've made it as kind of boom, step by step as I possibly think it would need to be, but go through that in your own spare time. Then obviously on top of that, been sweet and kind enough to share some tutorials with you. So if you want to go through some of the official Word tutorials from Microsoft, you're more than welcome to, and same with Google. And then there's a bunch of obviously video versions of it. So if you just want to sit there and during load shedding, you've maybe downloaded some of the videos that you can watch, and you're using your time effectively during load shedding and not just twiddling your thumbs. Is it possible to get all the modules? Yes, that is possible, no problem. Okenge, I think it is. I will send the links at the end of the discussion. Okay. So that's your Microsoft Word and your your Google Docs. Again, much of a muchness really, like not too different to themselves. Then there is, let's click over here. And then obviously the same applies for Excel or for Google Sheets. It's a simple little exercise to be able to kind of create a basic spreadsheet and create a chart. with some data that you've put in. Again, go through that in your spare time. And again, kind enough to be able to give you some actual tutorials there too. Some of these obviously can go quite deep. It doesn't mean you need to go through the whole kind of how to use Excel backwards, because Excel is a very, very complicated program the deeper you dive into it. And that's, I'm not saying that to scare you, I'm just telling you that's a reality. It's one of the most popular tools used in financial kind of modeling and finance kind of applications for a reason. It's very, very powerful. You can do a hell of a lot with Excel. You can do simple little calculations like lining up a column and going, how much is the total of that? But you can really kind of get down to the kind of the nitty gritty of noticing trends and data, et cetera, by using Excel or by using Google Sheets. Excuse me 1 second. Sorry about that. And again, there's obviously a bunch of video tutorials for you to go through in your time. Okay, so there's that. And then PowerPoint and Google Slides, again, much of a muchness, similar tools. And once again, there's obviously a bunch of tutorials you can go through in your own time. Okay, so we've got some bonus sections here. Okay, so our bonus section, I was just mentioning Canva. Canva is another tool that's becoming, what has become very, very popular over the last few years. It's must be about 6-7 years old at this stage, but in the last couple of years, it's really come into its own. It's very, very popular for people putting presentations together because it's got a lot of templates that you can use. And most of the tools are free on Canva. There obviously are some paid for services that if you want to be able to use those features, you can obviously pay a couple of dollars to use them. But to be able to do most of the stuff, there's plenty free kind of elements and free templates and assets that you can use and drag and drop into your presentations and kind of make a very powerful and useful presentation or flyer or poster or a kind of a little marketing material that you want to be able to kind of send out for your next big event that you're doing. Canva's a useful tool to be able to use. And again, you can go and sign up for free. It's obviously all web-based, so you can just log into your web browser and have obviously access to all of the suite of tools, or this suite of tools. So you can kind of go through that in your own time as well. And again, I've added some kind of design kind of guidelines and tutorials for you guys to have a look through, and you can go and obviously do that in your spare time. Canva is useful because, again, maybe not all of us are great communicators, and obviously communicating is vital in this day and age. So it's obviously nice to be able to kind of, for the people that maybe can't communicate as effectively verbally, to get their point across. Sometimes they may be more like visual people, so they kind of can kind of explain their ideas in a more visual representation than by just explaining it off the top of their head. That's a great kind of use case for something like Canva, and obviously PowerPoint as well. But yeah, it obviously just helps you kind of get your ideas onto essentially a digital canvas. That's why it's called Canva. But onto this digital canvas that you can obviously explain your ideas. And when you are going through things, you're not forgetting to mention certain things because your presentation is kind of covering that for you. So it is a good skill to have. It's a good tool to know. A lot of companies ask, can you use Canva? Because it's such a good communication tool. So it's a nice extra skill to add to your kind of your arsenal of skills that you've kind of developed in your current state or your current stage in life. It's useful to know. Okay, so we're getting towards the end of our presentation here, because I know that the last part of my slide was going to be around the AI stuff. Let's see, I've got one little chat here. Okay, I am unmuted. Okay, so Ayabonga, I'm not muted. So hopefully everyone else can hear me. But hopefully I haven't been talking to myself for the last 30 minutes. Okay, but maybe just check your volume on your computer, or maybe just mute and unmute your audio in your computer and just see if that fixes it. But I think, as far as I'm aware, okay, yeah, so other people can hear me. That's great. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Ikram. And thank you, Simone and Martha and all the rest. Okay, so everyone can hear me, except, unfortunately, you. So if you can, just check your audio, and hopefully it solves it. If not, I'm going to send you the presentation. So you can't hear anything I'm saying right now. Anyway, so whatever. Hopefully, if you've got any questions, you can get a hold of me and I can kind of maybe do a one-on-one with you if you want me to do this again. Okay, so I've mentioned obviously some bonus material here. ChatGPT, I'm not going to ask for a show of hands who knows what ChatGPT is, because I want to assume, I really, really want to believe that at this stage, people that are joining us today in an educational space are familiar with what ChatGPT is. And for anyone that isn't, that's fine. But it is a tool that I would recommend. It's an LLM, which stands for large language model, that's been trained. And if you want to know if anyone's kind of gone and done their own kind of wondering what GPT stands for, that stands for generative, pre-trained transformer. Okay, so generative meaning it's a generative model. It generates things, so it doesn't work on its. If you open up your ChatGPT, for anyone that's used ChatGPT, it's not going to just start talking to you. You've got to kind of give it an input, and then it'll give you an output, and that output is what it's generating. So that's the generative side of the GPT. Okay, then there's obviously the P, meaning pre-trained. Now, pre-trained meaning it's looked at books and scientific journals and medical journals and kind of conversations on Twitter and kind of on Reddit, and it's kind of gathered so much information from the internet and all these digital books that are out there and digital kind of repositories of information that are out there, like from legal documents through to kind of financial documents through to kind of laws through to kind of everything you can imagine that's on the internet. GPT has kind of looked at it. This model has been trained based on that information, and it's now deciphered how to kind of communicate that information in an effective human manner with the right nuance and the right kind of grammar and the right kind of spelling and the punctuation and all that kind of stuff. It's kind of GPT was such a revolutionary breakthrough because a lot of things similar to GPT had existed, but they weren't as refined, they weren't as good. I have a question here saying, can I use ChatGPT as a reference when doing assignments? Well, not the free version, okay? And I'll show you now, because I'm going to give you a little bit of a demo of GPT. I'll show you the free version. I'll show you the GPT Plus version. I wouldn't recommend using it. If you're going to, you can use it as your initial kind of research to help you with your initial research, but then I would go and double check those references. It's not, see, the way that GPT works and the way a lot of large language models work, and for anyone that's not familiar, is there's something called temperature. So inside the back end of ChatGPT, which you can all access if you just go through to OpenAI's Playground. So if you just Google OpenAI Playground, your same ChatGPT login, your username and password, will give you access to this playground. Okay? And the playground is just a slightly more, it's not as user-friendly, but inside there, it's got a little slider that allows you to choose your temperature from 0 to 1. And obviously 0.0 or 0.1, 0.2, there's a whole bunch of increments in between it. That temperature allows you to give your conversation more fact. Well, it basically gets your GPT to respond to you either more factually, the closer it is to 0. So 0 means like, give me the truth. Don't kind of make this all pretty and give me kind of poetry and kind of creative writing. I want you to give me the facts. So often your chat GPT is set to about 0.4 or by default if you're using chat GPT. But if you go into the actual GPT playground, the OpenAI's playground, where you can kind of choose different AI models to use there and change the temperature, you can adjust that. And again, if you're obviously wanting things to be very specific and not give you any errors, I say that still double check your work. But it's the lower the temperature, the more factual it is. The higher the temperature, the more creative it is. So if you're wanting this thing to write a nice kind of a song for your girlfriend or a poem for your boyfriend or whatever the case is, then you can obviously play with that kind of temperature and move it closer to 1. But if you're wanting facts, keep it as close to 0 as possible. So again, by default, ChatGPT is 0.4 from a temperature point of view. But yes, don't use this to cheat. I'm always kind of like remind some of the students here, is like, you're only cheating yourself if you're going to use GPT or ChatGPT to do your homework for you and to do your assignments for you. Let it be an assistant, almost like a teaching assistant. It's got a lot of information in there, and you can use it to kind of help you and guide you in some kind of areas. but don't just copy and paste GPT into your assignments. Firstly, I will be able to recognize that, and I'm sure I'm not the only one that can recognize a paragraph written by GPT. You look at it enough, you start to pick up patterns, and it's quite obvious to understand that obviously something has just been copied and pasted. And also, you don't want to do yourself a disservice while you're studying. You've got all these kind of academics and professors and experts around you. If you don't understand something, and again, you can use it to help you understand things better. Like ChatGPT can explain kind of quantum physics to you like you're a 5-year-old if you ask it to do so. So it will help you understand things. But you don't want to be in a position where you've used it just to kind of give you an assignment because you kind of maybe too busy or too, I don't want to say lazy, to kind of actually put the time and effort required into it. But you've just got to be a bit more mature than that, because at the end of the day, you're going to get out into the real world. Excuse me. Excuse me. You're going to get out into the real world, and you'll be presented with a situation where you're going to need to kind of explain something that you've written before. And they're going to go, well, could you explain this in a bit more detail? Let me get onto my phone and kind of open up my chat GPT, and oops, what do you know? The internet's down, and now all of a sudden the cover's been blown. You sent this presentation through without understanding the topic well enough to be able to obviously explain it if you were put on the spot. And the same with assignments. Kind of don't use this as a cheat. I'm just saying use it responsibly. We've kind of gone through a lot of different kind of evolutions in kind of access to information up until very recently, and I say very recent, last 20 years. Internet access wasn't really a thing. Prior to that, you'd have to go to the library, go and kind of check out a library book, go and kind of, hopefully no one else has got that same library book that you want to take out for the week or two. And you would have all this information, but you'd have to go through the book page by page, or kind of hopefully find out where that information, that specific information that you need from the book is. Then the internet came around and kind of made it a little bit easier, and it almost seemed like it was cheating because you had all this access to information now. And it was just a kind of a few searches away, and then that information was there. GPT and the AI tools that are coming out and that have come out and that are going to continue to improve throughout the next kind of foreseeable future, those tools are the next step in that access to information. 100%. Okay, 100%. That's a good answer there. Thank you for Okenge. Thank you. There we go. And so I'd like to obviously just give you a quick example of obviously some of the GPT functions that obviously people can use. But again, GPT is not the only large language model that's out there. There's obviously also Claudia, which is part of the team of people that were the first developers of OpenAI's ChatGPT that broke away from the company. And for anyone that's not familiar, Elon Musk was one of the founders of ChatGPT, but he also pulled away from the company. He was one of the founders of OpenAI, who created ChatGPT. And the reason he left is because he thought it was going to be open source. He thought it was going to be available to everyone for free, and the business model slightly changed. The argument behind that was for security reasons. So for anyone that's ever used ChatGPT, if you ask it anything that it deems inappropriate, it won't give you answers. There are ways to make it give you answers, but I'm not going to tell you how to hack and cheat ChatGPT to give you things that it doesn't want to give you. That's something you can work out on your own time. But yeah, so obviously there are a number of other ones. Bard, B-A-R-D, is Google's one. There's Meta has released a new one called Llama 2, which is the latest version of their Llama model. That's open source, oddly enough. So Llama 2 is available, but you need quite a powerful computer to run them locally, to run them on your own computers. And that's when I mentioned the GPU. A lot of the artificial intelligence stuff these days, whether it's graphics, things like Midjourney, Stable Diffusion, Leonardo, there's a ton of Blue Willow, there's a ton of like these image generators that are out there that can create images and videos and other kind of graphical content. And there's a ton of obviously other large language models out there that you can also run locally on your computer, but you just need a very powerful GPU. So your GPU needs to be at least a 3070, 3080, or a new 40 series on the NVIDIA cards. If you want to get into AI and AI development, which I do recommend everyone get into, because again, otherwise there's going to be another country or another company from another country that's going to provide us AI tools that we're going to have to pay for and always be at the mercy of these other countries and other companies. So I want more and more people to get into AI because there's a lot of opportunities there to create solutions to problems that are uniquely South African and uniquely across the continent that we can help solve from South Africa. But you do need quite a powerful kind of GPU in your computer. So again, an NVIDIA is the manufacturer of the top end GPUs. So if you do buy a laptop or a desktop or whatever the case is, and you are trying to get into AI, just make sure that you've got an NVIDIA graphics card. So NVIDIA is the best to get for any AI kind of training and learning. Okay, so obviously ChatGPT is the one that everyone's talking about these days, and obviously, like I said, the G stands for generative, the P stands for pre-trained, and in the T, the most important part of it is the transformer. And the transformer is just basically an AI algorithm that is kind of it's an interesting kind of algorithm if anyone wants to go and read up on it. There's a white paper on it called "Attention is All You Need." It's about I think about a 10-page document, and it explains what a transformer model is. So anyone that's going to get into AI is probably going to want to know what a transformer is, and a transformer, not in the kind of electrical kind of context. A transformer in this context is essentially the algorithm that's been very cleverly designed to be able to obviously understand, like I said, nuance, context, like natural language, etc. So that's where the magic happens in the GPT side of things. Okay. So again, we want to kind of let's see what else I've got on my page here. 1 second here. I think that was Then I had some other kind of extra official kind of links to go and register for ChatGPT, and then an introduction video to ChatGPT as well if you want to go and look at that in your own spare time. And congratulations, you've completed the office applications and the bonus material stuff that's in there. And I'm obviously just kind of a little last little words of thought and advice and whatever you want to call it here, is just to kind of take these skills and just remember that you obviously are capable of doing things that anyone else in the world has done, but you just need to know where to start. And some of these kind of things that we've discussed today, I believe, are kind of just good places to start. Anyone can do anything that another person, another human has done. It just may take you a little bit of sacrifice. So instead of going out and having too many parties on the weekends with your friends, maybe do that every third or fourth weekend and keep those other 2 weekends to kind of actually improving your digital literacy, improving your digital skills, trying out new tools, trying out new technologies, diving deep into some research and kind of understanding what you can do to kind of provide solutions or create products or create services or create businesses using some of these tools that we've discussed today. It's up to you. Nothing just lands on your lap, guys. You've got to have a bit of a plan. And it's one thing I will recommend is have a plan, have an idea. Every idea that you may have may not be as valuable as the next idea that you have, but try and at least just try and work on some ideas and some projects in your spare time. And you'll look back in a few months, you go, I've got a few things that are kind of, maybe that project or that idea is 75% refined. That one needs a bit more work. What other tools can I use to kind of finish this off and help me finish this off? How can I present this idea or this product or this solution to my company, to a potential funder, to a potential investment from a bank or whatever the case is? Like, just use these tools and keep practicing. And again, there's obviously a bit of a catch-up that we need to, as South Africa as a whole. But I think with all of these tools and technologies that are being released at this point that are available to everyone, I would definitely not look that gift horse in the mouth, as they say, and make use of these tools, because it's going to put you so far ahead of so many people from all walks of life. You know, it's not just about people that haven't got access to this technology not knowing the stuff. It's about people that are also maybe in an era or in a kind of industry that they feel as though they've got enough knowledge, they don't need to learn anymore. So they tend to just kind of finish their day's job, go home and put on a kind of a TV show or a movie and kind of eat their microwave dinner on the couch with the family. You don't want to kind of fall into that trap at this stage while you're studying. Get the most out of your studying, get the most out of this time that you're dedicated to studying, by getting kind of, by just trying things, by doing things, by kind of using these tools and getting familiar with it. Okay, so with that, I can see I've got another little chat going in here. What is it? What is the GPU? So the GPU is the graphics processing unit. And the most famous, like I said, the most famous company that makes GPUs is called NVIDIA. And I'll share a quick link with you here. Give me a second. So NVIDIA. And I don't want to scare anyone with prices of graphics cards, but some of the NVIDIA graphics cards can be relatively expensive. So I'm going to pop this into the chat here. So NVIDIA is the world's most famous graphics card or GPU manufacturer, GPU producer. one of the cards that trained the OpenAI's ChatGPT is called the A100. And again, this is not like that's a very high end, very kind of professional level kind of GPU. It's not for playing games. So if anyone that's a gamer out there, don't think that A100 is a gaming graphics card. It's not a graphics card for playing games. It's a graphics card for using AI for training kind of complex kind of maths, for doing complex maths, should I say. So for like architecture and for, again, AI and for anything that's got a lot of data, your high-end GPUs are going to be kind of needed. But the A100 card is about 200,000 Rand just for one of those cards. And there were thousands of those used to train GPT, just so you know. And it was about 3 or 4 football fields worth of these cards over the first version, or ChatGPT, which was version 3, and then there's now 3.5, and now there's 4, which is the plus version. Just to train 3, it's now gotten a lot quicker now because they've got the base, they've got the base model trained, so it's a lot easier to train on top of that model. Those are often referred to as LoRa's, L-O-R-A. But that particular process for training GPT-3 took about one and a half years. It was almost 2 years, actually. And again, on like 3 or 4 football fields full of these A100 graphics cards. Elon Musk just went and bought 10,000 of the newer version, which is the H100. He went and bought 10,000 of those for Twitter to start using more of the AI in Twitter. So they are relatively expensive, but Nvidia, they make the RTX cards, which are your normal kind of, it's actually what I've got in my computer, and what we have in the computers in the labs here are RTX cards. Those are your kind of high-end consumer cards. There's also GTX as well, but RTX seems to have the most CUDA cores, CUDA CUDA cores, which allows you to do kind of quite a lot of complex tasks at once. So yeah, that's what a GPU is. In terms of getting started with an AI, with a 2080 Ti would be, I mean, 2080 Ti, like, you'll be able to get away with it. I'm not sure if that's in your machine. Is it in a laptop or is it in a desktop? Because obviously your laptop GPUs they don't get given as much power, as much, obviously, your power supply on your laptop is not as powerful as your power supply on your desktop. And obviously your graphics card is going to be allocated some of that power. If you've got a 2080 Ti on your laptop, it won't be as powerful as in your desktop. Let's put it that way. So when you are choosing a laptop that has got a decent graphics card, just ask how much power of the power supply is actually being allocated to your GPU, and ask how much is being applied to your CPU. So that's a common question. Then you're hundreds. You'll be able to. I mean, if you can use, obviously, don't kind of, if you know what overclocking is, okay, make sure your cooling system in your system, in your computer system is up to speed. You could overclock. Okay. You will fry it if you overclock without keeping the graphics card as cool as it needs to be. Try it without, obviously, you're not going to fry it if you keep it at default. So whenever it is out the box, you've got the latest kind of, if you've got the NVIDIA, the GeForce Experience kind of tool, you can update your graphics card's drivers. I would often use the studio driver as opposed to the gaming driver. The studio driver is more stable. And then obviously, if you just keep it at default, you're never going to fry the card. As long as you obviously you're cleaning out your fans and you're making sure your computers it's not a dust bucket essentially, and your fans are all spinning optimally. If you wanted to overclock it, then I would maybe recommend doing some water cooling, or you could tweak it a little bit inside there without frying as well. There's a couple of tools. I mean, I've got an MSI machine, so I've got a thing called Afterburner, which is obviously a way of clocking, but it does tests. So before it kind of sets that kind of that speed, that clock speed, increases that clock speed, you can kind of obviously test it to see where it crashes, and then you take it a step back. You won't just burn it out if you just test it. It's if you run it for an extended period of time. But most of the time, your computer will crash and restart before you actually damage your card. But don't mess around too much with the extra voltage on your card if you're not familiar with it. I would just be a little bit careful. But you're more than welcome to get a hold of me, and I can explain some of this in more detail if you want to at a later stage. Okay. What else do we have here? Okay, so I wanted to kind of just show you a quick little demo of anyone that hasn't kind of seen GPT. So I'm going to unshare my other presentation quickly. So I'm going to stop sharing that, and I'm going to share another screen with you guys. We'll wrap up in the next few minutes. But I'm going to share one other thing with you quickly, if you don't mind. So I'm going to share screen. Let me get to my Vivaldi. There's my Vivaldi browser. Okay, so hopefully everyone can see we can all see my browser. That's fine. Hopefully I'm not giving anyone any anxiety here with the amount of tabs that I have open. Don't worry, there's method to my madness here. But yeah, bottom line is I've got my GPT open here, and then next to it I mentioned there's another tool that we use for generating artwork. That's called Leonardo.ai. You're free to go and use that as well. Get 150 credits a day. If anyone's heard of Midjourney, it's very similar to Midjourney, except you get, again, 150 credits per day for free. And you can just launch the app, sign in with your Google account. Just tell when you say launch app, say, am I whitelisted? Say yes. And then you can just go and obviously, I'm already, it's going to log me in automatically. No, it's not. Okay, so I can go over here to Google and I can sign in with one of my accounts and log me in with no problems. Okay, let me just sign in with one of my accounts. So let's go that one over there. Load up Nichols. And it'll log me into, again, a little free AI image generator to be able to go and create very cool graphics. But if I click on this, it'll tell me the prompt that it used. Obviously here it's got a positive prompt and it's got a negative prompt. It's telling me what model it used here, the Leonardo Diffusion. And maybe I want to start a t-shirt company and I want to kind of do some quick graphics. I can kind of look at some of the existing designs that people have done, and I can use some of their prompt engineering, essentially is what this is called. I can use some of their prompt formatting and their prompt engineering, and I can make things my own. And if you wanted to generate, you would just go into AI image generation, and you would basically paste that, whatever I just said here, a cat wearing a hat on a skateboard. I was giving an example to someone the other day, and they spat out a cat wearing a hat riding a skateboard using a model called 3D animation style. You can see I can go and change all these different models that will give me different looks and different feels and different, if I want a more realistic graphics, then I can obviously go and use my Stable Diffusion 1.2 or my Stable Diffusion's SDXL is the latest version of Stable Diffusion's kind of model. There's obviously a bunch of other kind of models you can go and play with. You can do that in your own spare time, and you can change your resolution here, and you can, if you want to have a negative prompt, so what things that you don't want to see in your image, then you can just turn that negative prompt on and go and click on that, blah, blah, blah. So that's a little bit of generative AI image field. But in our GPT field, which I wanted to show you here, you've got your GPT 3.5. Because I've got the plus version, I've got access to GPT-4. GPT-4 does come with a whole bunch of very interesting tools. So if I go into plugins here, I can go and choose, obviously, a bunch of plugins. This particular plugin here, Keymate.ai search, allows me to go and do things online. So I'm not limited to September 2021, which every time you search something, it'll say, yeah, I've only got information up until this date. Using some of these tools, I know there are some free ones with ChatGPTs or GPT 3.5 using some of the Chrome extensions that'll give you access to the internet. This is just a more rounded, kind of more complete plugin group of plugins. There's hundreds and hundreds of plugins that do a lot of stuff for you in here. If I go to all here, you'll see there's just pages and pages, 124 pages of different plugins that do different things to help you automate your tasks. Very useful. It's $20 that I pay every month because it's well worth it. It's a very, very smart system. It's about 10, and I say 10, not just a thumbs up random kind of number. It's about 10 times better than ChatGPT or GPT 3.5. So GPT-4 is it's a huge improvement. It is more accurate and it's better at maths. It passes the New York bar exam from GPT 3.5. It passed the exam at about 54%. With GPT-4, it passed the New York bar exam. And if anyone doesn't know what the New York bar exam is, just the exam for lawyers, essentially in New York. The GPT-4 passed it with 94%. So it went from 54 to 94 in a 0.5 version difference. Okay, so it's a much bigger it's a huge gap. But anyway, I'm going to show you something quickly. I don't know if anyone's in the chat there wants to maybe give me a topic. Give me something that we should try and fix in South Africa. Give me something that's maybe troubling you in your neighborhood, in your community, in your kind of hometown. Anything. Anyone can throw anything into the chat, into the little chat box there. And I'm happy to kind of just give a quick demo on some of the kind of useful applications for GPT and even obviously GPT-4. Most of these will work with both of them, but I'm just wanting to see if any of you have got any ideas. Let's see here. Okay, if no one answers, that's fine. That's fine. But let's just pretend someone. Okay, water purification. Okay, thank you very much, Martha. I appreciate that. Okay, so we've got a bit of a water problem at the moment in South Africa. I've been across from Cape Town to Joburg to even Durban. We're having some issues with kind of water availability, water cleanliness. Our beaches here are currently not really the blue flag status beaches that they should be. So yeah, water purification. Okay, so let me make this very specific. So I'm just going to talk to my little AI quickly. Hello, comma. I'm based in Durban, South Africa, and I'm looking at ways that we can improve our water quality through purification and filtering. We've obviously had a few issues of late with flooding and with some of our water treatment facilities not being optimally maintained. And we'd like to try and find ways to ensure that we actually are getting the best quality water that's not harmful to us and that we can kind of cook with, drink, brush our teeth, do all the things that we need to do without getting ill or sick or without it harming us in any way. So we're looking at ways of purifying our water even further beyond obviously what we're getting out of the taps. What other recommendations could you give beyond things like a Brita filter and other water filtering systems? What are some more easier, more commonly available that would be accessible to the majority of people in South Africa to be able to utilize? What can we do to improve on our water purification? Okay. We'll let that think for a little bit. Let's see if it's going to go online and do some search. So there we go. So it's using that plugin that I obviously enabled, which is a Keymate. So that means it's going to actually look online, and then it's going to come back with more with the most current information that it's available. Okay, so right now it's just spitting out some information there, and it's going to keep on spitting that out. And while I'm talking to you, it's going to keep on doing that. Now, the reason I did that is so just to highlight, like sometimes, we want to type things out and it's important to be able to type things out clearly. But sometimes we just want to let that language flow. We don't want to be sitting and thinking as we're typing. And so I use a keyboard shortcut on my computer, which is Windows H. And Windows H allows you to, wherever there's a text box, so even if it's Word or an Excel or whatever the case is, wherever your mouse, your cursor is clicked on, as long as you can write in that area, if you push Windows H, and you can talk to it, essentially. So you can talk to your GPT, you can talk to your computer, and it's pretty good at recognizing what we're saying as with our South African accents. But the only problem is the one thing you'll need to do is just change your language on your computer. You might have had it set up as South African English. You can, at the bottom of your screen, if you go to language or keyboard options, it'll give you the option to have multiple languages on your computer. And you can just change your language to US English. Okay, because for some reason the South African English, when you have that selected on your computer, it doesn't allow you to actually talk to your computer. So you just change that to American English, and you'll be able to do what I just did there quite easily. But as you can see there, it's giving us some options of boiling and solar disinfection and ceramic filters and biosand filters, chlorination and moringa seeds and all sorts of activated charcoal. There's rainwater harvesting, new technologies, and there's an article I can go and click on there to move on. Clean waters today. There's also there's air purification ways where it sucks the moisture out there, especially in high humidity climates like in Durban, where you can there's machines essentially like an aircon basically, so it does chow a little bit of power, but it's able to suck out the moisture in the air, run these through that ceramic plates that obviously filters it. And by the end of it, you can produce a couple of depending on the size of your machine, but you can produce liters and liters of water every day for free just from sucking it out the atmosphere, from sucking it out of the air. But now, obviously, it's given me some links and things I can go and click on. I could also say to it now, just while we're here, oopsie, let me just do that again. Okay. Thank you. That is very useful information. I appreciate it. But now I want to explain explain this to a bunch of people, and I'd like to be able to present it in some form of kind of presentation. So if you could potentially give me a breakdown of a presentation that's going to be about 10 slides, including all of this information that you think I should mention within this the short presentation that I want to propose to someone on ways to address our water purification challenges in South Africa. And if you could do that, I'm going to put that into an Excel. I'm going to put that into a PowerPoint presentation. So please could you format it so that it's going to be ready for me to insert into my PowerPoint presentation at a later stage. Excuse me. So as you can see, it's doing its thing, making a little bit of magic. It's not to say that I'm going to kind of just copy and paste that and go and hand that to someone, but it gives me a good starting point. So I can fill in the blanks now. I can go, okay, what do you mean by chemical and natural purification? There's some bullet points. I want to understand more about the moringa seed option as a natural coagulant. What can I use? Where can I access these moringa seeds to be able to do this type of water filtration or water purification? So I'm not saying that this is going to just spit out a full presentation for you, and it's going to be just a quick little conversation with your computer, and you go and get a tender to go and change the water system in South Africa. But you can see that ChatGPT is not just a simple little, what does this mean? What does that mean? I've seen a lot of people using it in a very ineffective way. It's a very powerful tool. You can have a back and forth conversation with it over a period of time. So I can close this little chat tomorrow or next week or the week after. I can come back and go, hey, you remember that presentation that we were talking about? Could you please maybe just refine it and add this to slide 4 and add this to the beginning as an introduction, and include some videos and links to some of these kind of technologies and tools that are available on YouTube, and it'll go out and find you links, and it'll go out and find you images if it wants to. But with the combination of GPT, PowerPoint, or slides, as well as obviously something like Leonardo, you can kind of, again, whatever you want to describe to Leonardo will create a picture of that for you in a realistic and animated, in a kind of cartoon style, in a vector format. There's a lot of application for it. So it's between a few of these things we've discussed today and this last little kind of bonus kind of session, I'm hoping that we got through some stuff today. I'm hoping that this was somewhat useful. I will just end off on the GPT side of things as one last little kind of thing that I've kind of gotten myself into the habit of doing, which is don't just bark orders at your GPT. I know it is an AI, and this may sound silly, but don't lose your manners. And that's important, because obviously part of digital literacy is also kind of, again, effective communication skills, understanding how to deal with situations in the best possible way. But sometimes we kind of, when you're using some of these tools, we don't say please, we don't say thank you, and I worry that that's gonna leak into our everyday real lives, and we're going to become rude and not be polite to each other by just kind of saying, I need this from you, I need that from you. Again, try and just kind of force yourself to say please and thank you when you're talking to your AI. And again, I know that may sound crazy because it's not a human, but I just don't want people to become so reliant on this, so kind of used to communicating with tools like this, that in the real world they forget their manners. So yeah, that's just my own personal thing. And then on top of one last thing, which I will mention, is again, understanding digital kind of tools and technologies and being digitally literate will also help you not come across as, I know there's some examples that I've heard recently from a few institutions actually, where something will be kind of, and especially during the COVID time when we were doing online distance learning, people were obviously kind of communicating through their Zooms, through Teams, through all these other channels. And if something went wrong, often people would, and it was often people that didn't understand the technology, they would get quite rude with some of the people that they were engaging with. Your connection's broken, or I couldn't log on, or this or that, or the next thing, without understanding the technology and then realizing that it actually might be a problem on their side. It might be a user error, as it's often referred to in the IT space. So that kind of common thing of, you might see a few comedy videos about like IT people. You know, the first thing that they'll say to you is restart your computer. And after that, if the problem still exists, then we can have a conversation. But again, technology can be temperamental at times. But the more you understand about it, the more it gives you the opportunity to kind of not look like a rude person, kind of being kind of saying that someone else's fault, that their connection's not right, etc., when it might be a you issue. So hopefully from this little conversation we've had today, it gives you a bit more kind of confidence to kind of go and do a little bit of research, understand technologies a little bit better. And when you are confronted with challenging situations, which can happen, you know, this is life. Life can be a challenge. And even technology can be challenging and frustrating. Just try and remain calm. Try and give it some thought before just jumping to a conclusion that maybe it's someone else's fault. Maybe it might be something on your computer. So when you are dealing with kind of frustrations of slow internet or a kind of maybe one of your lecturers talking to you and it's like kind of stuttering, just before kind of again being impolite, try and be polite. Say, sorry, sir, or sorry, ma'am, I'm kind of I'm battling to hear you there. Could it be a connection issue on your side, or is it a connection issue on my side? So just that's also part of again digital literacy is just understanding the digital stuff that we use to a point where you're not making yourself look ignorant by kind of getting angry about things that aren't necessarily worthwhile getting angry about if they're not things that are obviously someone else's fault. Okay, so that's just one other little kind of digital etiquette in a way that you kind of got to think about. So when you're kind of finishing off your snotty little email because you've been unhappy about some digital some kind of connection that you had with one of your lecturers and it was horrible, like just work out if it's a you issue or if it's a connection issue or if it's an internet connection issue from the other side. So just make sure your computer's running smoothly. Make sure that your kind of internet connection is solid. Don't have 101 things running at the same time on your computer when you are attending a webinar. If your computer is not that powerful, just close all the things that are unnecessary. Stop the things that are starting up with your computer that don't need to start up with your computer. There's a number of kind of ways to kind of make your machine run a bit better, and hopefully it doesn't come across as someone that's digitally ignorant and then arrogant at the same time. But yeah, anyway, that said, guys, it's been a wonderful little session. I do generally not like talking to myself. I like talking to people, but in this instance, it was a little bit challenging. So thank you, Martha. I appreciate. And thanks. When is the next webinar? We'll discuss that. It often just gets, I get an event in my calendar telling me that this is what's happening, and then I appear. So if you want another session, I will share the slides. Thank you very much for reminding me there. I'm going to just quickly share that with you. 1 second. So if you literacy, boom, copy. Where's my thing here? Okay, let me just see here. 1 sec, 1 sec. Let's add a file there on my computer. But yes, as I was saying, guys, any other questions? Put them in the text block there, and I'll kind of answer them as I'm just quickly looking for my work folder here. There's my work folder, there's my courses folder, and there's my digital literacy PowerPoint. Boom. Okay, so you'll all have a copy of that presentation. And again, go through that at your own spare time. Again, feel free to communicate with me. I'm going to put my email address there just in case you want it. And if you've got any questions beyond this, please feel free to reach out. And I'm always happy to try and assist where I can. So there's my email address. Boom. Okay, so you've got the presentation. You've got enough little lessons and short videos and courses to go through within that presentation. And you've got my email address. So no excuses. Everything's up to you. All right. Okay, but anything else? Hopefully, if you've got any questions, please speak now. I'm here for another 5-10 minutes. Always a pleasure, guys. Anyone else? Anyone else? Let's see what I've missed here. Got some Q&As going there. Okay, thank you. Cool. Perfect. What else is going on in the chat here? Only a pleasure. Thank you, Martha. Appreciate it. Okay, cool. I'm here for another 5 minutes. So again, feel free to ask any questions if you want to. For anyone else, for everyone that joined us today, thank you very much for joining us. I hope you enjoyed it. Looks like you did, so that's good. And again, I don't feel. I know there will be some kind of form going around. If there's anything that you think we can improve on, please don't be shy. I'm always happy to improve. I want to improve the delivery of these kind of talks. So if you have any recommendations, don't hesitate to kind of to mention those. Again, I'm always open to constructive criticism. Don't criticize my hair, my beard, but you can criticize everything else. All right. Cool. So I know we went a little bit over 10 minutes over time here, but sorry, I sometimes get stuck into things. I lose track of time. Okay. Well, I think hopefully I've given people enough time to ask any extra questions. So if not, you've got my email, you know how to get back, you know how to get a hold of me, and you've got the slides, go through it, and maybe I'll hear from you in a couple of days or a couple of weeks, and we can kind of go further in this if you want to. Everyone, thank you for attending, and we'll see you soon. Cool. I'm going to turn my camera off so you don't have to see my funny face anymore. Uh, I'll share that with you now. Sorry, it's just up here. Let's copy it back there and paste it there again. Boom, there it is. Yeah. Okay, that's a bit strange. Okay, pasting it again. So some of you are saying you can't see my messages. That's a bit concerning. Okay, so some links that you said. Can I? Okay, so the links are inside the presentation. So any of the links that I mentioned will be inside the presentation. I'm just hoping that can some people tell me if they've got my email address or not? If some people can see my email address. Some people are saying that they can't see my email, can't see my messages. Can't see links. No email address. That's crazy. Okay. Okay, hold on. Okay, here we go. Let's go there. How's that? How's that? Ah, there we go. Okay, sorry, that was my bad. I was only sending it to the hosts and the panelists. I didn't change it to everyone. Okay, so that was my fault, guys. Let me just see that presentation. Okay, so let me share the presentation again. Sorry. The irony of me giving a digital literacy course and then not not looking at who I'm sending things to. Okay, but that is what it is. These things happen. Okay, so there we go. There's the presentation again. Thank you very much. What other links did I share? I shared the NVIDIA link as well, so I'm going to share that again with you. So that was for Okenge. I really hope I'm not butchering your name. But there's the NVIDIA link as well. Cool. Let's see anything else there. Cool. Okay, well, there we go. Problem solved. Thank you for forcing me to work out what was going on there. I see where the error was, and it was one of those user errors. So sorry. That was all me. Sorry. But problem solved now. Okay, so Rose, I'm going to just resend that again. I'm going to just drop it in here again. Presentation is digital literacy. Okay. Can you see that now, Rose? Okay, well, Rose, hopefully you got that now. Still not. That's crazy. Did you see my email address? Okay, so maybe if you don't mind, just send me an email and I'll just email it to you. I don't know why it's not showing up on your chat. So yeah, so if you wanted to send me an email and I'll actually just attach the presentation. Cool. Perfect. Okay. Only a pleasure. No problem. Okay, so I'm going to kind of give you guys another 30 seconds or so, and then I'm going to go and get a new piece of toilet paper because I need to blow my nose again. So you can see emails and links. Thank you, Okenge. Okay. So you've got about 20 seconds left to ask me any questions and point out anything that you need. And then I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to end this session. Thank you very much. You also. Okay. Well, I think we've done our time, guys. Have a lovely day. Stay safe. Stay out of trouble. And hopefully we'll see you soon. Cheers, everyone. Bye.